Hello my friends, and welcome back to the Review Den. And wait a minute, what is this craziness? What is going on?
This is so great.
Werewolf?
That's right, it has been a whole year now. This is the first anniversary of the Review Den. From zero knowledge of content creation to this? Well, okay, so it's still a little modest, but still, and I'd like to thank all of you for helping me along the way. As a celebration, I'm thinking of doing a little get to know me and maybe year in review video after this one, but first, I think it would only be appropriate to review the sequel to the very first game I covered, Gear.Club Unlimited. Well then, this, my friends, is Gear.Club Unlimited 2. About a zillion years ago, I remember reading an old automotive magazine which was reviewing the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6. It was a minor update to the Evolution 5. It had better cooling and more restrained bodywork, unless you count the Tommy Mäkinen edition, which us racing fans will recognize. Now, I forget the article's specifics, but I do remember its tagline, which was better, but blander. Likewise, Gear.Club Unlimited 2 tries to mature its image over its predecessor, subduing the colors and environments and even the gameplay to an extent. Unlike the Evolution 6 though, mechanically, this game doesn't take much of a step forward. It's an odd situation too. I mean, I could understand if the first game had some problems. It was based on a mobile title, so of course there might be some conversion issues, and in fairness there were. In my original review, I had trouble recommending it because of a frame rate bug in the garage area. But once you were out on the road, the game was actually really enjoyable. It was fast, it was fun, and even on a simple game engine, it looked nice. It didn't have cutting-edge physics or some crazy Unreal engine, it just made use of what it had to be fun and colorful. So you would think a few years in development and being built exclusively for a game console would lead to a better product and those pesky few problems solved. Unfortunately, not quite. Let's start with the basics though. From an overall gameplay perspective, or game flow perspective, Gear.Club Unlimited 2 is mostly similar to its predecessor. You start with enough credits for a basic car, and start taking part in races to build up enough money to upgrade your garage, which can then upgrade your car to take part in more races. Like the original, you have some character portraits pop up to guide you through the basics, and this time there's even some simple story and rival characters to give the game a little more personality along the way. It's nothing extravagant, but as someone who actually enjoyed the added story bits to games like Toka 2 or R Racing Evolution, it's a nice touch. Most importantly though, the garage doesn't bug out this time. The original Gear.Club Unlimited had an almost game-stopping performance issue where the more you upgraded your garage and got through the game, the more the garage would freeze and stutter. This time, everything works. Garage content is mostly recycled from before, but hey, at least it runs now. The career map also makes a nice return. Taking first will unlock more races throughout the map, and they're now divided between career championships and exhibitions. Championships are restricted to specific classes, A through D, with 3 subclasses each, and they help you advance through the game. Exhibitions are only for money, but they usually accept a wider variety of cars, which is cool. Race types mostly consist of point-to-point, laps, and time eliminations, which are fine, but I do miss the switchback or double-back races of the first. Now, for newcomers, just beware that the game does take its time in some pretty slow cars before you reach the fun stuff. When you do, it's great, but unlike games like Forza, slower cars aren't that fun to drive here, so first impressions aren't great. The big problem with GCU2 though is the most critical element of all, controls. See, Gear.Club was originally meant for mobile tilt controls, so it was understandable, I mean they still should have gotten it right, but still, it was understandable that they didn't translate perfectly to a gamepad with thumbsticks. Still though, the controls worked well enough if you took the time to adapt. This time out though, the game was built exclusively for game consoles, so I had to get the controls wrong again. You'll probably notice throughout my gameplay videos that getting through turns is a very shaky affair, as if I were using the D-pad or something. But no, this is using the thumbsticks of the Joy-Cons and the Switch Pro controller. Whether you push the stick all the way or just barely nudge it, the cars will dart all the way over as if you just yanked the steering wheel as hard as possible. It wouldn't be such a killer if the game were forgiving and arcadey, but GCU2 actually goes deeper with its physics this time. It's not a sim by any stretch, but the cars definitely have more weight and suspension travel than before. I mean, I've enjoyed games like Forza for years, and I've always used a gamepad. Thumbsticks still have plenty of travel to navigate subtle turns or hairpins. In Gear.Club Unlimited 2, however, they somehow managed to keep the almost D-pad style controls with more complex physics. Not a good combination. It's kind of subversive too, because most gameplay or reviews you see online will only show the first few races in the slowest cars, where it's not really an issue. But I pride myself on reviewing games I have finished. You wouldn't give a movie a good review if you just saw the first 30 minutes or so, and I feel the same way with games. And I can attest that the highest level races can be a nightmare with these controls. It's doable, but very difficult. It really is a shame too, because when things come together around the middle of the game, you can pull off some nice power slides that you didn't see before. The new physics really show some potential, but everything is let down by the controls. Once I reached the top level D-Class cars, I was not shy about using those assists. Visuals are an interesting case too. The first game may not have used any next-gen visual tricks, but it was colorful, bright, and it just had a nice look to it. The stages were all nicely varied, and they featured tons of towns, castles, farms, bridges, tunnels, windmills, and beaches. It just showed some great artistic design that kept each track interesting. Here though, Gear.Club Unlimited 2 is more stoic. The bright Sega-style colors are all desaturated, and there's now a grain filter in place, but most of all, the tracks just don't look as interesting. I mean, you can tell the poly count of the environment is a bit higher, but there's few buildings and landmarks to spice things up. I don't mind if developers try a new or different style, but here things just look, I don't know, just repetitive compared to the first. The cars still look great though. Eden Games had some rough models in their earlier titles, but nowadays everyone has access to nice laser scan polygon models, and these really do look nice. Some cool new cars join the list, and while there isn't any damage modeling, at least all the moving wings and aero parts work this time, which is a nice touch. Sound design is still great. All the cars feature nice loud engine notes, and you can really hear the difference between deep, smooth V8s and screaming V10s and 12s. And this time out, Gear Club features licensed music during races, and it's a pretty decent playlist. Eden Games isn't a massive company, so they can't afford to throw top-level bands into their games like Electronic Arts and, say, Need for Speed, but there's some nice second-label stuff here. The only issue I really had was there just wasn't enough of it. I wish there was more. Now, one area where Gear.Club Unlimited 2 does offer something new and fresh is in its add-ons. Added to the base game were the Tracks and Endurance Racing Pack and the Porsche Pack. The Porsche Pack includes a nice selection of new cars, as well as a few championships specific to the manufacturer. These 3 championships are unique in that they provide you the choice of cars to compete in for free, but you'll have to earn your upgrades in order to win. You'll start with a base level car, and as long as you place somewhere above last, you'll earn performance upgrades at the end of the championship. You then re-enter with the upgraded car with the goal of placing better and eventually winning that championship. Win all 3 championships and you'll grab the prize of the 1987 911 Turbo. It's a change of pace from the rest of the game, and just having a nice selection of Porsches to race around in is always worth it in my book. The Tracks and Endurance Pack is the real game changer though. Here you are given 5 new cars and 5 new tracks, which are in fact racetracks. 4 are fantasy, but the last is the mighty Circuit de la Sarthe, Le Mans itself. And I have to admit, this was actually pretty awesome. Le Mans is probably one of my favorite circuits after Donington and Road Atlanta. I know most endurance fans go crazy over the Nürburgring Nordschleife, but this is my excitement right here. The new twist with this expansion, though, is the need to manage fuel and tire wear. In a setup similar to Grid Autosport, races are now time-based, with tires and fuel depleting at accelerated rates, and you'll have to decide between grippy tires, which need more pit stops, or harder tires that last longer. Grip depletes over time, and the effect is pretty drastic, but the computer will be dealing with this as well. And the races are timed so that you never quite have a clean-cut pit strategy. Overall, I found that the medium tires are a smart fallback, but the computer is very aggressive, so you might need to sneak in a set of softs to make a last-minute dash for first. Or you might find yourself in the lead with a nearly depleted set of rubber just gasping for the finish line. It makes for some really exciting finishes. Cool stuff, Eden Games. Just as a heads up though, the e-brake is disabled here, so you can't wait until the last minute to power slide through turns like the main game. It may seem like a small change, but the effect is huge, and I found myself running off into the sand quite a few times before rewiring my thinking. Like the Porsche pack, even finishing lower down in the ranks will reward you, this time in the form of faster pit crews, and completing the lot will reward you with a beautiful Gen 1 Ford GT. Overall, this expansion was quite the nice surprise, but again, the top level cars are hampered by that on-off steering. If it looks awkward, it's because it is, and it's frustrating that they never thought to fix the issue. And that overall really is the summation of Gear.Club Unlimited 2. It's a game of ups and downs. It's fun when you get some nice mid-level cars that can work around the steering issue, but frustrating when you reach the top. The visuals, when they all come together in the right light, can look rather nice, but overall it struggles with a more bland aesthetic. It fixes a major bug from the first game, but fails to address basic controls. Now, as of this review, Gear.Club Unlimited 2 is about to release on Xbox, Sony, and Steam, and I'm interested to see if they fix the handling, but for the Switch, this game is like that problematic car, maybe your very first one. There's so much you love about it and want to love about it, but man, it has some issues that drive you up the walls. Thank you all so much for watching. Even if the game wasn't a smash hit, it is super exciting to be having my channel's first anniversary. Please do stay tuned as I'd like to do a year in review, maybe future ideas and a get to know me, but for now, would you be my next subscriber? I'll be back soon with another video, and as always, when things get tough, be sure to keep going, because you are worth it.